Hello, welcome to FightCore USA.
If you've ever wondered why fighters wrap their hands before they step into the ring, stick around.
Excellent.
Because today we're going to show you exactly what these reps do, why they're so important, and why there's a lot more to these bad boys than just padding. We re-gone. Tell you all about one of the most crucial pieces of equipment that you don't actually see when fighters are fighting. And if you think it's the mouthpiece or the groin protector, keep thinking that, because this is something else entirely. So make sure you watch until the end of the video so you don't miss out on any of this action. And if you want to learn how to be an MMA fighter without getting punched in the face, so that you have a better understanding of why these reps are so necessary, then tap the subscribe button, because here at our channel we help you learn how to become an MMA fighter. And yes, that means learning from the comfort of your own home. That's right. You heard the man. We help you learn how to become an MMA fighter from anywhere in the world. You may think that the most important part of fighting is being able to throw a knockout punch. But believe us, when we say that, without the right amount of protection, even the smallest little punches could mean the difference between winning a fight and losing a hand. That's right. Believe it or not, those small, delicate bones in your hand are extremely susceptible to injury, which means that if you don't take care of them, you could be facing some serious damage. For example, let's say that someone throws a haymaker straight to your jaw. If you get caught by that punch, not only will you get knocked out cold, but your opponent's fist is probably going to land directly on top of your hand. In that split second, the only thing separating your hand from your opponent as full body weight slamming into it is a thin layer of skin, and that is not going to end well for you. Trust us, you don't want to find out the hard way. So that brings us back to hand wraps. Have you noticed that most fighters wear some kind of brace or wrap on their wrists? What you're looking at there is a simple hand wrap, but that little piece of cloth is doing some very heavy lifting. Let's explain it to you. When someone throws a punch, the force generated by their entire body gets transferred through their arm and into the knuckles of their fist. The harder they punch, the more force is generated, the more force is transferred through their hand. Now, depending on who they're punching, that force is either going to be absorbed by the other person or transferred back into their hand. Now, imagine that same thing happening when you're on the receiving end of a punch. All of that force from your opponent's punch gets transferred through their hand and into your face, all while at the same time the force from your hand gets transferred back up into your arm and eventually through your entire body. It's no wonder why so many fighters were... But what is the point of wearing a hand wrap if all it does is transfer? Throw. Throw your body. Well, that's where you're wrong, because hand wraps do a lot more than just pad your knuckles. When a proper hand wrap is used, the wrist and knuckles are supported, which means that the force from a punch will be distributed evenly across a larger surface. area, which reduces the amount of force that any one specific bone has to deal with. This helps to prevent injuries such as fractures and strain. Now, here's the thing. Hand wraps aren't allowed to be any thicker than 12 millimeters, which is about half an inch. And on top of that, you're only allowed to use 2 layers of gauze. Anything more than that and you run the risk of being disqualified. So that means that the hand wrap has to be snug enough to provide support without being so tight that it cuts off circulation. It's like Goldilocks and the 3 bears. Not too tight, not too loose, just right. But why are there so many rules regarding how much gauze can be used? Isn't the whole point of the hand wrap to add as much padding as possible? Well, the answer to that lies in the fundamental purpose of hand wraps. Remember how we told you that when a punch is thrown, the force gets transferred through the arm and into the fists? Well, the same thing happens when a punch lands on the receiver. Except instead of the force traveling through the arm, it travels through the entire body. And that's where things can get a little bit dangerous. If you've ever been hit by a haymaker, you know exactly what we're talking about. Even though it doesn't seem like much, the human body can only absorb so much force before getting injured. If the force from a punch is too great, it can cause internal damage to organs such as the heart and lungs. But fortunately, the human body is a pretty amazing thing, and it has its own natural shock-absorbing mechanism. When your body absorbs a large impact, it immediately goes into self-preservation mode. That means that blood gets redirected away from non-essential functions such as digestion and towards the vital organs to protect them. At the same time, adrenaline pumps in, your heart rate goes up, your breathing becomes more rapid, and your muscles tense up. These are all designed to protect the body from further damage. But when all of that force gets transferred through your hand and into your arm, it puts a lot of stress on your circulatory system. Too much stress, and you could go into shock. But thankfully, hand wraps are there to help by providing support to the wrist and knuckles. They distribute the force of a punch more evenly throughout the arm, which reduces the amount of force that any one specific area has to deal with. This helps to prevent internal damage to the body while still allowing the fighter to absorb the shock of a punch. Think about it, hand wraps are kind of like training for fighting. They provide support and stability until you're more experienced and can handle more intense impact. Because trust us when we say that no one starts out knowing how to get hit by a haymaker. It takes years of practice to master that particular skill. In fact, one of the best ways to tell if someone is a beginner fighter is by how they react when they get hit by a haymaker. Most people flinch or try to block the punch, but experienced fighters simply absorb the shock and keep moving forward. Of course, this takes a lot of practice, but it's also thanks to the protective gear that they wear, including hand wraps. Now, let's be honest, there's nothing quite like getting hit by a good old-fashioned haymaker. It's like getting hit by a train, but if you know how to take a punch, it doesn't hurt nearly as much. And a big part of that is thanks to hand wraps. They provide support for the wrist and knuckles, which helps to distribute the force of a punch more evenly throughout the arm. This allows the fighter to absorb the shock of a punch without sustaining any serious injuries. Plus, they also help to reduce the amount of force that gets transferred into your body, which means that you're less likely to end up in a world of hurt. These are more than just padding. They're a fighter's best friend. They're the unsung heroes of the ring. Without them, a power puncher would break their hands in every fight. Thanks for watching. We hope you learned something new about one of the most important pieces of equipment that you do untactually see when fighters are fighting. And if you want to learn how to be an MMA fighter without getting punched in the face, so that you have a better understanding of why these raps are so necessary, then tap the subscribe button. Because here at our channel, we help you learn how to become an MMA fighter. And yes, that means learning from the comfort of your own home. Now, check out these other videos, which are showing up on the screen right now. And remember, if you're not hitting the heavy bag is hitting you.
Okay guys, thank you for watching my videos.